Hey guys, Imagine from ECF, and today I'm going to be discussing the low resistance 306 versus the low resistance 510. And this video is more, I guess, if you want to call it for the noobs, whoever, for the newer vapors who are looking at the 510 low resistance versus the 306. And this is also for people that want to do the low resistance 3.7 volt battery. They don't want to stack and they don't want to do all the varivolts. I've run the whole system. I've gone from standard e-cigs to the 6 volts to 7.4, back down to 5 volts. The varivolt 4.4, 4.8, 4.6, and I've gone every volt in between. What I've come back to, and I found myself going back to, was the low resistance 510 and the low resistance 306 with a 3.7 volt battery in a mini style. So I don't have to stack bats. I have mini mods, you know, my little Rios I can carry around. You know, my 3 milliliters of juice, and if I need to, an extra bottle. But I found it so much more simple for me to just grab one battery, pop it in, last 6 to 7 hours, depending on what type of battery you got, and have a low resistance atomizer to simulate a higher volt vaping. Some people like 1.8 ohm, 1.6, 2 ohm. They have different variations, and you can get them. Cisco has 1.5 ohm and I think 1.8 and 2.0 and you know whatnot. And his site is the avidvapor.com. This is the 306 right here, and this is the 1.5 ohm. And the way to know your Addy is a Cisco Addy. Number one, you can't get them anymore. I think a few sites might have some left, but it used to be they were all over. Now you can only get them from avidvapor.com. And on the bottom of the atomizer, right on the ring of the atomizer underneath, it'll show you, it'll say Cisco and the ohm, and that'll be the Cisco Addy. This is a low resistance 510 from Eastmall, which I in the past loved and I still use here and there. Theirs is a 1.5, but it can vary between 1.5 and 1.7, plus or minus 0.2. It could go down to 1.3 or up to 1.7, right in that general ballpark. Let's do a vapor comparison on a 1.5. This is 1.5 I metered, and this is a low resistance. They both have the same battery, a AWAMR 14500, 300 or 3.7, 600 mile. They both are doing that. So let's same juice, 100% VG, 24 milligram vapor bomb Virginia menthol, which is what I find to be my favorite combo. So let's do the low resistance 510. You get a really good vapor. Give it a little more juice. Really nice throat hit. It's warm. It's got a great amount of vapor. And let's do the low resistance 306. Same setup, same battery, everything. I feel like I get a little more vapor off of this. A slight, maybe like 10% more vapor or something. It's very close. But you do get a little more vapor off of this. And that's because I think it runs a lot hotter. It has a larger coil, a more better coil, I guess you could say, because from what I understand, the coils are Cisco spec'd from here, and he sends them to him, and they manufacture them to the exact detail that he wants them to be. Now, there are obviously two different monsters here. You got the 510 low resistance, and you got the 306 low resistance. One has an atomizer that goes into it. This one goes over top of it. It's much smaller, shorter. You can see height-wise, it's a little bit smaller, a little bit shorter, a little more thin. This is made for direct dripping or feeding up through, which my method is obviously I feed up into it with feeding mods. This you can direct drip on top, use a cartridge, or you can feed underneath. So you know, the options there are different. If you're a direct dripper, this might be more for you because you know this is obviously a direct dripping atomizer, and then you can de-wick or not de-wick or de-bridge. But I find myself going to the Cisco atomizer more often than not than the 306 or the 510, simply because it gives me a hotter vape. I like a hot, warm vape. I like a nice airy vape, and it gives me a nice airy Some people like more of a tight draw. I think a 510 has more tight draw. And you get a cooler vape with them. I like a hot vape where it burns your throat a little bit. I like that. I like the you get a great flavor out of the 306. Almost reminiscent of a 901, but the vapor I think is much better than a 901. I find myself going to the Avid Vapor and getting these a lot more. I've yet, and this is the true story, I've been having the Cisco Addy since I think January, February-ish, somewhere in there of this year. I have yet to kill one of my Cisco atomizers. They do get weak. After a couple of weeks, you'll notice that the vapor is not as strong, and you almost kind of get used to it, and you forget, and then you pop a new one on there, and you go, oh, wow, I was missing that. They do get weak, and then you toss them. But that's what atomizers are for. Everybody gets caught up in an atomizer should last so long, and it's so expensive, and blah, you know. It's like, come on. A pack of cigarettes is $8, you know, my area right now, it's 8 something a pack, almost $9 a pack. So if you buy one atomizer and it lasts you 3 weeks, 2 weeks, you know, you're good. Even a week, you're good. You really are. I find the Cisco's, I'll use them 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll clean them out. And then if I'm running low, I might pop it back on there while I'm waiting for a new order or something like that. I don't throw them all away. I do throw some of them, but I keep 1 or 2 like as a backup. I've yet to kill one. I've not had a burnout. I've not had it die. So that is a positive, huge favor for me. I love that. I like the hot, warm vape. I like the flavor of it, like a 901. I like the airiness. It's got more air. I think more air gets to it, obviously, because it's not encased, you know, completely. It's in the open. And man, these batteries they make a difference too compared to the other batteries. Go with the AWs, people. It's just if you're gonna buy an expensive mod or run a nice atomizer, get a good battery. These batteries will last me hardcore vaping 6 to 8 hours minimum. I run them the whole time. They don't die. I run 6 or 8 hours. They get weak, and then I pop a new one in. Now, let's not take away from our everyone has got to know that a 510 has been one of the, you know, the tried and true atomizers of you know, the mass people that love 510s, because 510s are very popular. They're form-fitting to egos, and everybody, you know, 510 connection, 510 connection. There is a large amount of 801s and 901 people, but there are a large amount of people that do the 510. And another thing I forgot to mention with the 306 that I really enjoy is that it'll fit on any 510 connection. The threadings are just almost the same. I think they're a little bit smaller than an actual 510, but they'll fit on any 510 device that you have 99.9% of the time. But I still love a 510 because it does have a different airiness. It does have a different flavor profile. It does have a different, you know, it gives off a different amount of vapor. And I love the Eastmall 510s because they're cheap and you can get a bunch of them. And they do work well. I have not tried an Eastmall 306, which I plan on doing, and I have not tried a Cisco 510 or, you know, which I plan on doing as well. But these Eastmall 510s really run well. So if I had to make my choice of any 2 atomizers that I had to stay with, it would be these 2. But I do use the 306 more than the 510. If you're like me and you like a nice, harsh, hot, warm, hottish warm, it's not like burning, but it's close to, it's a nice warm, close to hot vape with a nice harshness, and it gives a lot of flavor and a lot of vapor, then this is what you're going to look for, a 306. Prices is like, I think it's $8 atomizer or somewhere in that ballpark. Check out avidvapor.com. And they're worth it. If it lasts 2 to 3 weeks and you toss it and pop a new one on, you're doing it's right. It's where it should be. And money, if you get into vaping, it's going to be an investment, and you got to find what you want to like, what you're going to be sticking with. And I really like these, so I think you should check out avidvapor.com. Cisco Addies, any kind of ohm or style, they got them all. And also Eastmall low resistance 510s are great. Eastmall.net. You know, they had some bumps in the road and they've had some problems here and there, but 99% of the time, for the majority of the time, I never have a problem with them. I've never had an order not show up, and they have great. I've had atomizers last forever, and I had some that have died here and there. But that's what happens when you buy different made atomizers. You know, some of them last longer, some don't. Some die, some don't. Keep them wet. With the 306, you want to make sure you keep this sucker wet because it dries quickly and goes very hot versus a regular one where you'll get 7 or 8 vapes. On a 306, you might get 4 or 5. So you got to keep it more wet and more juice in there so you can keep vaping longer. Never vape it dry because then you could run the risk of popping it. I've yet to do that, so knock on wood here, but that's all I wanted to talk about. They're both great atomizers, really. It's not so much a versus as a get them both, and really they're great atomizers to run. So later, guys.